At that time, he was wearing brahmachari clothes, right? And then he could see that he needed his better half, Mother Bobby, so she came shortly after. Some of my greatest experiences, or at least my most memorable experiences in Krishna consciousness, have been with Charu, actually. Even though we haven't seen each other very much in the last, 30 years, 25, 30 years. But some of my greatest experiences in Krishna consciousness have been with him. In Berkeley, Los Angeles, here in Utah, and Spanish Fork. And what I mean, to me, I don't know if any of you have heard this recent interview that Charu did with Nam Ras. I think they entitled it, Comfort is the Enemy of Bhakti. Very good interview. Very good interview. Nam Ras asked Charu what his favorite service was. It was the most amazing answer I ever heard. He said, when I see a piece of paper on the ground and pick it up, a piece of trash on the ground, he picks it up. That was what he said was his most favorite service to Krishna. It's just, Hare Krishna. So, in that interview, Charu was saying how he found early on his calling, you might say. In the West we call it calling, and in Krishna consciousness we talk about our nature, what we have a proclivity for in the material world. And so he discovered that early on, that communication was his proclivity, was his expertise, and what he loved, and what he was very good at. To hear Charu give a class was very exciting, very inspiring and enlivening to me. But my attraction, or my, I don't know about expertise, but at least my ardent desire is to do kirtan. And one thing about Charu, he was a great kirtaniya. I don't know if I think I heard him lead Mongol Artik once in Berkeley. It wasn't that he was a kirtan leader, kirtaniya, but whenever there was kirtan, he was totally into it. He was always into it. He was right there. And a lot of the memories I have of Charu, a lot of memories I have of anything, is centered around certain kirtans. We all lived together, myself, my wife. I think we had two kids at the time, and Madhua and his wife, and Charu and my Bobby, and who else lived in the radio station. All of you know about the radio station building. It has a basement. And we all lived in there together when we were building the original temple and house. And that was some of the, when I think of that, it's just the most ecstatic time. We had great Mongol Artiks in there. And another thing, Charu was always into the morning program. That's something that I've tried to attach myself to over the years. And he was always into the morning program. So that was in reflection to this interview that he had, the comfort is the enemy of bhakti. There wasn't a whole lot of comfort. I mean, the basement of the radio station is basically a few rooms, and I don't even know, there's a bathroom in there or something. I don't even remember. upstairs. And it was very, you might think that austerity is something that it seems uncomfortable. It's something that you have to do even though you don't want to do it or anything. But that was ecstatic austerity, living in that basement of the radio station and building that house and temple. There's so many other times that being with Charu and working with Charu that were, as he even said about himself that he wasn't the most socially polished person. In other words, I don't know how to put it, but he was. We had a great relationship in Berkeley because we made a lot of devotees, and I took care of the devotees, and he took care of everything else, and Rich also took care of the devotees. And Mother Bhai Bobby engaged us all. And it was a very, he said that in that interview also with Nam Rouse, he said that he hated management. And when he said it, the word kind of spit out of his mouth. he meant it. But he did it, it seemed like effortlessly to me, because everything he touched, he had the Midas touch. Everything he touched turned into, go look at this place. And a beautiful place. Between him and Bhai Baba, they turned everything into a beautiful spiritual atmosphere. And then, of course, Spanish Fork, everybody's been there. And it was such it was a surprise to me because it hit me so hard. Charu was leaving his body. And for a while, I just couldn't figure it out because we didn't have, over these past 30 years, we didn't have much of a relationship together. He did come to Texas a couple of times, and we did a festival, and it was very nice, and I heard his rap stuff, which was super great. I thought it was great. It reminded me of the beatnik days when the coffee house, they would read poetry, and he had that kind of cadence with it. And just to think that he had all these rap songs in his mind and memorized them, it was like incredible. Of course, he used to go around with 3x5 cards with verses from Bhagavad Gita and all, when he gave a class, he could quote one verse after the other. And he taught us how to memorize verses. Of course, he had a natural proclivity for it. I don't have much of one. But I memorized a few verses from his method. So, it's a great loss. And I don't know. It's Hare Krishna. I don't do a lot of these events, fortunately, and I don't know what to say. I could tell more stories, but there's a lot of people, and a lot of people want to say something in honor of Charu, and there was one devotee who expressed it very nicely to me. What was his name? Prema, that devotee I'm building the Rath Yatra for up in Canada. Prema, something you said. Prema Kishore. He's way up there in Thunder Bay, Canada, which is practically at the end of the world, right? And Charu's been going there for the last 5 or 6 years. I'm building a Rath Yatra card for him. And he said just a couple of days before Charu left, he had told him his travel arrangements and everything. And he was pretty devastated when he heard about it too. He texted me, he said, "I'll remember him forever." And I think that's true about everyone who's come in contact with Charu, that he's a very memorable person, just someone you just would never think would leave, that you'd have to, see leave this material world. But we know that everybody has to do it. Right? Anyway, I hope there's time later to just sing a little kirtan. Anyway, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
First of all, can everybody come forward a little bit because we're expecting the same amount of people after 7 p.m. So please, thank you. I invite Madhua Prabhu now and Balabhadra Prabhu next to you.
Hare Krishna. Every devotee, at least for myself, and I think everyone probably has one or two devotees that they were inspired by, took encouragement from, someone that helped them along. And for myself, Charu is on top of the list. I first met him in New York. I was a brahmachari coming from Hawaii. I was on my way to Africa to travel with Brahmananda Maharaj. And Maharaj had told me that, right after Rath Yatra, we're leaving. Monday morning we'll be leaving. So I was chanting japa in the temple, and one day Charu, who was, I didn't know him before that. He was a little, he seemed maybe a little frantic, running around looking for help. So he found me, chanting japa. He said, "Oh, we really need some help building some carts. Do you know how to, work with any tools?" So I said, "Yeah, I can do that." So I went with him, and he took me to this huge underground parking lot, a few blocks from the West 55th Street Temple. It was underground, and Bobby was there trying to put pieces of exhibits together, and Devi Deva was building some chariots, and Charu said, "Just help them." So we were there, you remember, for 2 or 3 days, all day, all night. Devotees from the temple brought prasadam, and so we helped. There was a big Rath Yatra in New York that year, and then there was a few little glitches with the chariots. Some exhibits blew over, stage fell apart. There were some problems. It was the first festival that the traveling Rath Yatra party was going to do. There were some problems, and on Monday morning, I went and knocked on Brahmananda's door. "Maharaj, I'm ready." I was really enthusiastic to go and suffer in Africa with sannyasi. And he said, "Well, plans have changed, you're not going." I said, "Well, what do you mean I'm not going? I'm going with you, Maharaj." And he said, "Well, Charu pulled some strings, and he says you're staying in North America now." So, and then I went to talk to Charu, and he's not a political person, or he told me of his vision. He said, "We're going to do Rath Yatras all summer long, and university programs all winter," and that was sounding pretty good for a brahmachari. That's like the real life, just travel and preach. So then he told me, "We're leaving in 2 days. We're going to Los Angeles. We'll be there for a while." So we went to LA, and we started repairing everything, putting things together, and then a few months after that, I think toward the end of the summer, Charu told me, "Well, we just got a confirmation. We're going to the Toronto Rath Yatra. You have to leave in 2 days." And he said, "You drive the truck there, and I'm going to fly out." So which was okay. It was an experience for me. So then I told him, I'm going to need $900, LA to Toronto, long drive. "Oh, no problem, we'll get it to you." And every day I said, "You have that money yet? We have to leave in 2 days." And it's got down, we only had 2.5 days to get there. It's a long drive. So then the morning we were going to later, Charu told me, open the back of the truck up, and he had this devotee in LA, Jagadish Ananda, in charge of the book room. And he said, oh, just take you. He had a pallet of Bhagavad Gita's for me, like 50 cases of books. I said, thanks for the books, but I need cash to buy fuel. He said, oh, truck stops are great places to distribute books. And I got to go now, I got a lecture schedule. So he gave me all these books, and somehow we made it there. And the end of that summer was the grand opening of Prabhupada's Palace in West Virginia. So we went to that festival. And over the winter, it got close to Christmas time. We had started doing these university programs, which Bhai Bobby was booking them, like 3 or 4 programs a week. There was like no time for Maya in between them. Bhai Bobby kept us fully engaged. So at Christmas time, devotees traditionally do some kind of marathon. So Charu had, the name of the program then was South Asian Cultural Exhibition. So Charu had me wearing a turban, and I had a tray of sabji and a tray of basmati rice. So I was going out in front of like Kmart and Genco selling prashada. And the real struggle all day to sell sabji and rice to American people. So one day Charu came, he said, oh, try this. These are some brownies, carrot brownies. So I put those on the table. They sold in like 20 minutes. So I called him up. I said, I need more brownies. Keep the subject at home. So within 3 or 4 days, I had a whole table. Skipped the turban, and had a table full of cookies and brownies, and it went from like $25, $30 a day to $200 or $300 a day. So, and then the LA temple, the devotees there saw what was going on, and they started a marathon after that. But this was Charu thinking out of the box. Cookies and brownies, why not? This is America. Cookies and brownies can be offered to Krishna. So we offered them to Krishna, and so we were distributing tons of prashada that was his idea. So we kept doing university programs, and then more Rath Yatras, time went on, and then I moved toward the East Coast. Well, let me see, first, before that, Vatsal and his family and my family, we moved to Utah in 1986, or 84, 85, that time, and we all lived in the basement of the radio station. And Bhai Bobby had designed this temple on the hill, so Vatsal was mostly building, I was helper. We were working on that building, and Charu didn't come often. He was mostly in LA. He was doing recording tapes, making recordings. But to step back a few years, because I kind of forgot what I had written. When we were in LA in 1980 or 81, Charu said to me one day, hey, we're driving to Utah, can you drive us? So Charu and Bhai Bobby were going to Utah. I said, oh, what are you going to do in Utah? Oh, we're going to look at a radio station. Because Charu was broadcasting, doing radio programs in LA, a few times a week. So he says, we're going to go look at a radio station. I was thinking, a radio station? Because in California, radio stations like $1 million, the cheapest. So we got to this little town called Spanish Fork, and we went into, I think it was a coffee shop or something. We were sitting there, and 4 of us, Charu, Bhai Bobby, myself, and some real estate business guy. Yeah, this is a radio station, 1480 on the AM dial, KHQN, and Charu signed a document there, I was thinking, how is he going to pay for that? And he showed me that, just like when he put the books in the truck, and he said, don't worry, Krishna will reciprocate. So he bought a radio station. He didn't have any income. He was like, someone comes to the temple, he might get a donation. But he had faith. He was preaching. All he was doing with that station was preaching. The radio station, KHQN, it wasn't money-making. It advertisers. He was preaching, and Krishna reciprocated. Then we moved, then later in 1992, we moved to North Carolina. I didn't see Charu that often, but we started hearing about this color festival he was doing. And my first impression, I was thinking, God, I knew Charu was, works out of the box, but this is really getting out there. And this kind of music and, people dancing. I was thinking, he's always my Prabhu. I didn't say anything, but I was thinking he's really stretching it now. And then when I went to the first Colors Festival, I was invited to one in, I think it was in Orlando, Florida. Trivikram Swami had done one, and then I went to one in Vancouver. And I completely changed my mind. I was thinking that Prabhupada and the whole Parampara, they must be looking down thinking, this man is a genius. The people who come to these color festivals, all they want to do is party. They want to have a good time, they want to dance, throw colors, and now they're jumping up and down, chanting Hare Bol, Hare Krishna, having a good time. So I saw in Charu as, he thought out of the box completely, is how can I preach, how can I distribute the holy name? This was also Prabhupada's mood. Prabhupada's godbrother was also, but he's out there, he's giving the holy name to white people, he's letting women do deity worship. But look what Prabhupada did. This was Lord Chaitanya's mood, it was Prabhupada's mood, and it was certainly Charu's mood. So he taught, I saw what he went through in Utah, just to pay off that radio station, and then you build the beautiful temple they have. He had so many obstacles, problems, but one thing that I learned from Charu, and I imbibe it in my life, is tenacity, stick-with-itiveness, to stick with it. You have a project, you stick with it. There may be some hard times, it may get a little challenging, but he never gave up. When we visited him once in Spanish Fort, maybe 8 or 10 years ago, he was just around the Spanish Fort temple chanting. He said, "This is all I know." He said, "I used to have to go out and preach. Now people come here. They come here." And he was many times, I don't know all of you know, but Charu, he really took care of his health. He had some, was it a cancer thing? 80s, something on the neck. So after that, I saw he began jogging regularly. And when I went jogging with him once at Brigham Young University, and after about 3 miles, I was like, I could hardly breathe. He just going along, the Mahabharata, Arjuna did this. He could run like 6 or 8, 10 miles without even, because he kept himself, that his body belongs to my spiritual master, belongs to Krishna. So he took care of things. He didn't neglect anything. And as far as the Grihastha, Charu and his wife, and Vatsala and his wife, they were always Grihasthas that I looked up to. They stayed together right till the very end. Anyway, there's lots of little stories, but I know there's many other speakers. So please excuse my stumbling around. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. We invite His Grace Bhagavati Mapu, please.
I've never spoken English before, so I'm really nervous.
first met you in '88, I think it was. It's passing to Spanish Fort over Vancouver. And in '89, my ex-wife and I moved to Spanish Fort. She was a disciple of Church at the time. And if I was to try to say something about Charu, it's a little hard to speak about Charu without speaking about Mother Vaibhavi as well, because they were amazing. Nothing less than amazing. But if I was to really try to focus on something, it was something that Charu said, and it's something that I've heard before, but I never really grasped it until, some hindsight came into my life with what he said. When I was living in Spanish, one day at the log cabin that Hassan built, it was like brand new. It was less than a year old when we moved there. It was in '89, I think it was. And Charu said something. He said his mood was amazing because he was cutting edge. He was really cutting. He was the tip of the sword when it comes to preaching. He really was. He scared the hell out of a lot of boys, including me, because I wasn't in the same space where he was. But I'm sorry I wasn't, because I look at the achievements and it's phenomenal, incredible. Like Madhura said, he did something that, Srila Prabhupada did, and that is that he was alone. And he built this amazing community of Vaishnavas. All of us are here, and so many more are not able to attend, probably. But, and what's more significant is that before Charu came to Utah, there have been other attempts to establish a yoga center, a preaching center in Utah, in Salt Lake primarily. I remember very well, because I visited them. And they never lasted. The tenacity that you spoke of, that you had a project, you had something in mind, and you put your heart and your mind into it, and you didn't let go. And what Charu had said was, we don't want to generate this us and them mentality. It's not like we're on the inside and everyone's on the outside. He was dead set against that. He wanted people to come and feel like they found something wonderful, that they belonged here, and at the same time they were free to leave. And his whole mood was chanting. And when you think about it, that the way he went about it was just what Lord Chaitanya did. Lord Chaitanya didn't speak philosophy to everybody. He only spoke philosophy to those persons who were intelligent enough to have a conversation with. And not all of them were on the same level. Like with the Chand Kazi, or with the Pandit, the Kashmir Pandit. That was one level of conversation. Then he would approach Haridas Thakur, and he would invoke Haridas Thakur to talk about the glories of the holy name. And in this way, he would be a student listening to Haridas Thakur. Or he would go to Ramananda Raya, and ultimately he would hear about Vrindavan Leela and Radharani's pastimes with Krishna from Ramananda Raya. But for the 99.9% of the people in the world, it was feasting, chanting, and dancing. That was Lord Chaitanya's mood. And in hindsight, I can see that was exclusively what Charu wanted to do. He wanted to create a situation where people can just come together, get such a favorable impression that all they wanted to do was chant and dance and feast. And this is culture. In every culture, there's chanting and dancing, there's feasting. And I had heard, I've not seen the document, but I had heard that Prabhupada said that this Krishna consciousness movement, it was spread as a cultural movement, not really as a spiritual philosophy. That will be there for those who are intelligent enough to really inquire and pursue. But for the general masses of people, it will be a cultural experience. And that's where Charu was coming from what I can see, with the holy festivals, with people. Look at these buildings. I mean, literally speaking, he put Utah on the map. People come from everywhere, from all over the country, especially in the Spanish Quarter, because it's in a remote area. You know, here in Salt Lake City, there's a Mormon temple as well. But still, it's an achievement. It's an amazing achievement. Practically speaking, single-handedly. But I have to say, he would not have had much success without his wife. She was an amazing person. She was the manager. He was a preacher, but she was the manager. And he knew that. You know, and he let her have that role because he knew it was needed, and she was good at it. And she, you know, Charu and my Bobby, actually, they saved my devotional service because I went through a crisis. And I had no place else to go but to the radio station. And they gave me the space and the time that I needed to heal and to grow and come back into my spiritual life. And I remember one day, Charu and my Bobby were out of town. Usually when they were out of town, they looked to me to manage the radio station. And so I was doing that, and sometimes I would work it within the restaurant. That's all I did. That was in Provo. In fact, I remember one time I was away visiting my in-laws at that time, and when I got back, the way the radio station operated in those days, the mixer that you guys used was an old-fashioned tube instead of a transistor. And the repairman always came by and said, why don't you use this transistor mixer instead of the tube, because then you'll never break down again. So anyway, Charu called me to the radio station when they're both out of town. And I answered the phone, and he said, so how's it going? So I said, well, not that good, really. He said, radio station burned down. I said, no, but it may as well burn down. We've been off the air for 3 days. And he just, my God. So he contacted, because I didn't know how to contact the repairman. I didn't know how to do it. I asked around. I didn't know anyone who knew how to find this guy. But when Charu pulled up, he contacted that guy, and then that repairman came out, and he said to me, I don't know why you keep coming out here. You guys have this tube mixer. You could be using the transistor, and you'll never have this problem again. So I said, put the transistor and get rid of the tubes, like this. So I said, and I don't know if you've ever had another problem since then, but that's what happened, you know, because I just said, I can't go through this again. So, and then we just went along really well with that. And Charu never questioned why I did that. Neither did you, actually. I think you just accepted it because it was there, it was in place. And I remember one time when they came back, Charu and Bobby came through the door, and what happened was we had learned that they finally paid off the mortgage to the radio station. Yeah. And this is like, I think, in 1990. And I don't remember if you got involved with something, because you were busy. But I think Madhu and his wife and Jai Krishna Prabhu, how well Jai Krishna Prabhu? Jai Krishna Prabhu was Bhakti Joe when I first came out here. And We cooked this huge feast in celebration. I don't really remember how huge it was, but it was awesome. It was nice. And as soon as they walked, because we knew when they were coming back. And as soon as we walked in the door, we just shouted, "Hare to them," and we had this nice feast waiting for them, and we told them why. Because you paid off the mortgage. How many years did it take to pay off that mortgage? It's like over $100,000, which at that time, it was like $1 million today, and they paid it like for 10 years. Yeah, through bake sales. Yeah. So it was quite an achievement. Quite an achievement. And there's like 1,000 other stories that I could tell you, but like, Madhura said, that's all we would understand. So many people want to share something about you. The only thing I'll say is that it hit me hard when I found out that he left his body. It hit me hard, especially the first couple of weeks. I cried every day. Every single day. I cannot imagine this place without you. It's just a little phenomenal. I never thought this day would come. Although, like Pascal said, we all know it will come one day. But somehow I thought in this case it would be an exception. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We're expecting at least 100 more people by 7:30, so please get squished as we have only this room and everybody wants to hear. Jai Krishna Prabhu, please come and give your offering. We are asking everyone to just stay brief, 3 minutes if that's okay from now. Next, Vallabh Chandra Prabhu, please be ready. Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I'm Jai Krishna, and I started listening to a radio station in Spanish Fork, Utah on the AM in 1988. And I had met a couple of devotees that had come up from LA, out of all places, a karate studio I worked out at. And I said, I just tried to be nice, and they told me their names. Of course, they had devotee names. And I said, are those Russian or something? And they laughed, and I said, no, we're Hare Krishnas. Have you ever heard our radio station? And I had heard it one time for about 5 minutes. There was some sitar music playing. And I said, I was jamming out to your twangy music. And they started laughing. They said, we have a free feast every Sunday. Would you like to come? So I'll consider it. So I started listening to the radio and started hearing classes. So if you live in a temple, you'll hear a class once a day, twice a day. I was hearing 4 or 5 a day. I was working in a shipping department in the largest LDS wholesale distributing company in the world, and I was putting books in boxes and listening to Hare Krishna philosophy. And I started going to the Sunday feast, and one of the devotees, Vatsal's wife, Shashi, said, you should go to LA, there's a big festival in Venice Beach. I said, okay, I'll go to the festival. She had lots of devotees, lots of kirtan. I said, so I told my brother and our good friend, I know a festival at a beach where there's free food. They bought it, and we drove to Rath Yatra. And some devotees took me around to all the booths and were giving me all the philosophy. I was seeing it in real time with a lot of devotees, because in Utah it was not like this. It was very small. And I saw this person on stage, and I immediately recognized his voice. And I said, that's the guy on the radio. And Charu was doing his thing, his MC thing. And he was emceeing, and he knew every performer, every dance troupe, every actor, everything that was coming on the main stage. So I was watching him, and well, I'd like to meet him. He must be very famous in the Krishna movement to be on the radio so much. And so then there was a kirtan booth, and I thought, that's all I want to do. I just want to dance. So I danced in the kirtan booth for about 3 or 4 hours. And then Charu came over, and the devotee said, hey, this guy's been listening to the radio station. And he lit up like a Christmas tree. He just smiled, and he said, well, I'll be coming back to Utah soon. So that's when I met Charu, watching him do his thing. Lots of adventures in the radio station, and I asked him, I was terrified, but I asked him if he would consider being my Diksha Guru. And he acted like, yeah, it'd be an honor, like it was just no big deal. And at the time, I was trying to go to the morning program. I was living in Springville, driving to Spanish Fork. So Maduha, he was living in Spanish Fork. He would drive to the cabin and unlock the door, and he would do arti, and I would sing the prayers with the prayer book, and then he would sing them back to me how they were supposed to be sung. And then Vatsal said, oh, I hear you're trying to learn the morning prayers, and he came, this is back in the days of cassettes, he goes, I chanted all the morning prayers for you to go. And so then I listened to Vatsal, and that's how I learned all the morning prayers. So then I went from Bhakti Joe to Jai Krishna, and dived into the philosophy, and then the temple was going to be built. And there's about 1 million stories between that, but Charu said, now you have to help us. We have to do a Bhumi Puja, and we need you to be a Brahmin and do this. Anything Charu needed, okay. So he would just tell me what to do, and I would do it. And I was on the news so many times that my mother-in-law was like, what's going on? We thought he just went out there on the weekends. And next, a temple in Utah that's not Mormon. Then I was, woo, Sure was behind me. So, and many years passed, and the temple was finally built. And again, 1 million more stories. If you want to ask great Charu stories, any of the people that have spoken so far, just FYI, just pick their brains for a minute. You're going to get way more stories because we're trying to be brief. But then we decided we needed to go to India to buy things for the gift store and the outfits for these deities that were going to be installed in the temple. So Charu and I went to India. Now I'm going to back up just a second because we went to Rath Yatra many times together. And Charu has the ability to sleep anywhere. And I mean anywhere. We would go to Rath Yatra and the Indians would say, come do puja in my house. I said, we're going to do a puja. They might invite us to sleep over. If not, we'll find some bushes. I said, okay. And sometimes they would be moving 15 pillows off really nice beds and then sleeping. And other times she would go, isn't this ecstatic? I know where some bushes are. We can sleep. No one will find us. One devotee in LA one time rented us a pickup truck. And there was a big pickup truck. And so Charu goes, now, if you don't get invited, we can sleep in the truck. Now, for the people that know LA devotees, there's one devotee named Narantra. And he loves to sing and chant. He had a rock band, and he would chant. And one day we were in LA, and we slept in between the temple and the house Narantra lived in. And we woke up in the morning hearing a shower going, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath. So this was the adventure. Was always, you never knew what you were going to get. You never knew what you were going to get. And so then we were in India. The same thing happened. If you from India, you know this. If you're not from India or haven't been there, when you go on the train, they have what's called the upper berth, and this is where you can sleep. So we paid some extra rupees to get the upper berth. And so Charu's on one side, I'm on the other side, and he thought, we'll take the trains at night, because then we'll be sleeping anyway, and then we'll just wake up and we can see what we want to see. I said, that's a great idea. So I had a suitcase with me, because he said, we're going to bring back lots of things. So my suitcase had 2 dhotis, a couple of kurtas, like nothing in it, but we put our bags into the seat, and then he would say, you know, Jai Krishna, when the train stops, that's when people try to steal your luggage. Well, good night. He would roll over and fall asleep, like immediately. And with my nature, I'm very protective, and so every time the train stopped, I did. So then we would get off the train, and he would wake up and goes, oh, I slept so well. How did you sleep? And my hair, this was like, and it happened all the time. And so we went to Vrindavan, and I'll tell you a quick story. I got too many, but we were going to Vrindavan, and for some reason there wasn't seats for both of us to be in the same car. So Charu said, no problem. We'll just get to Mathura. We'll just go and we'll get a rickshaw and we'll go down to Vrindavan. So I get off the train. Now we're traveling at night. And I get off in Mathura, and I make friends with all the Indians. They're like, oh, Mathura. I said, okay, thank you. So I get off the train, no Charu. He had all the travel plans. Anywhere we're going, I was just standing there. And I know every class that you go to a Hare Krishna temple, they say, you're not your body. Well, I was feeling very white. And I said, someone is going to take advantage of me. Then I said, well, the train went off. My heart was broken. And I went to the rickshaw place, and somebody had found me, one of the drivers. Then they were arguing over who was going to get the fare. So the guy said, 1 minute, and he wrote numbers on pieces of paper, and they all picked a number to see who would get the fare. And the one that found me got me. And so then I'm driving through these roads at night, not knowing where to go. I'm getting very worried about Charu, and the guy's friend jumps on. And I'm thinking, they're gonna rob me. They didn't. But you read in Krishna book, you know, a Caru like goes to Vrindavan, who's rolling in the dust. I was thinking, how am I going to fight these guys off me, and how am I going to get to where I need to go? So I end up at Krishna Balaram Mandir, and they had a room, and they said, it's only for tonight. I said, okay. So then in the morning I got up, I said, well, I guess I will go to class. So I got up and I went to Mangalarti, and then I went out and I called my wife, and I said, call Vaibhavi, I'm alone in India, we don't know where Charu is. I don't know, and I was very worried. And so she called Vaibhavi, so now we have 2 of the wives very upset. And I go back to sit in the class, and all of a sudden I feel these hands come on my shoulder. And I turn around, it's Charu, he's just smiling. And I said, we need to call Vaibhavi. And he said, oh, okay. So we called, I said, I found Charu, well, he found me. And what had happened was someone had given him the wrong time, and with his ability to sleep on the train, he went to Agra. So when he got off the train in Agra, he started going, well, how much is the fare to Vrindavan? And they said, oh, it's this many rupees. And he's like, no way! You know, you always have to do a little argument. He was like getting real, and they said, it's going to take a long time. You're in Agra. And he said, oh, we're not in Mathura? And they said, no, it's like hours that way. So he came in the morning and he found me. So he's found me a couple of times. Metaphorically speaking and actually finding me. And so he said, now we gotta load up the suitcases. And I lift weights, but I'm not that strong. We were both getting so they brought everything we could fit in our suitcases. And he said, we're gonna put the deity's clothes in your suitcase. And he gave me a little smile. So I was like, oh, carrying the deity's, you know. So, and then the temple opened, and it was in Spanish for Hare Krishna. So I could go on and on and on and on with stories, and if you want to find me after, or if you come to Spanish Fork tomorrow, I can give more Charu stories. He was such an inspiration to me. I know when he was jogging, it was mentioned that he used to go jogging, and some devotees were like, I don't know, is that Maya? And for me, I was like, oh, somebody's in shape and they're vegetarian? I did a 2-week experiment to not eat meat, fish, or eggs in 1988 because of Charu, and I'm still doing the same experiment today. So,
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, two for Charu, not for me. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that's like what he did, and there's so many little things. And one more little story he told me once. He goes, I wish we had a rock band. We don't have a lot of rock bands in this country. I said, so we could make one, and he just kind of laughed. He goes, yeah, sure. 2 years later, there we were on stage, and he said, what's the name of your band? I said, Krishna, because it had the word Krishna in it, and I said, the Ananda Groove, and he just smiled and goes, that sounds nice. And we sang mostly 90% Maha Mantra, 90% Maha Mantra. We had some other songs, but 90%. And so we watched the Color Festival take off. I was at the first one. Yogi Shah was there. He was very excited to do Holy. I didn't know what Holy was. And they said, they're going to put this colored dust and everybody's going to throw some on Krishna's dhoti. Isn't that ecstatic? And I was like, okay. And so they were throwing the colors, and it was probably 6, 7, 8 devotees, and about 8 or 9, maybe 10 BYU students that were there for a world religions class that had wanted nothing to do with the powder. So they thought we were crazy. Fast forward, practically Spanish Fork's Color Fest is BYU's unofficial spring break. There's thousands of people wanted to put the Facebook picture with their colors on it. So just see how out of the box, it's such a good way to say it. Charu is just out of the box and out of this world. I'm going to miss him very deeply. And so I'm going to stop rambling because I'm probably going to speak tomorrow too. So I'll save some stones for tomorrow. Road trip to Spanish Fork.
Hare Krishna.
After Balabchandra Prabhu, I request Dr. Dinesh Patel to please come speak. And then Ras Vilas Prabhu, Amrita Media, everybody can be ready.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
So a little over 20 years ago, I was a student at the University of Utah living with a bunch of Mormon returned missionaries. And they said, we're going to go down to Spanish Fork to a llama festival. I said, sure, I'll get in the back of the car for that. So they took me down to Spanish Fork, and we ended up at this amazing building in Spanish Fork. And I asked, what is this? Is this like a church? And they said, this is a Hindu temple. I said, okay, what do Hindus believe? That was my first experience with Charu Prabhu's external energy and Vaibhavi Mataji's external energy. We ended up somehow washing dishes. I'm sure Vaibhavi was involved somewhere. I don't remember Charu or Vaibhavi at that point. 20 years later, I had left Utah, lived in a lot of different places, came back to Utah and kind of felt socially unmoored. This was during the pandemic. I was doing a lot of soul searching, and I was looking for different philosophies, and I was looking for a place to volunteer. I wanted to find an organic garden to volunteer at. And I found online a listing for volunteers, this worldwide organic farming organization. and it was a local organization that I could volunteer at a temple. And I found a guy named Charu on Facebook. He was a prolific poster on Facebook, and I took a chance and I clicked that friend invite. And he accepted it right away, and I started listening to these amazing classes online. He was calling them Motivational Monday, Transcendental Tuesday, and Wisdom Wednesday. My mind was blown by this transcendental information that I was getting. After the pandemic, I went to the temple to see if I could volunteer. I was told I could. I got a lot of guidance from my Bobby Mataji. And on Sundays, I would go and I would sit down at Charu a few times. This didn't happen every Sunday, but a few times after the Sunday feast, I would sit down, cross-legged in front of Charu Prabhu, and ask him questions. And he was so gracious, and I just felt like I was sitting at the feet of a sage, just like it says, like in the scriptures. I've only known him for 5 years. I know I represent a lot of people in this room that have known Charu longer, or have met him here in Utah, or from Utah, or met him here. He had such an impact on so many people. He was my mentor. He took chances on me, giving me chances for service. And I'll forever be grateful for having met Charu Prabhu and the guidance that he gave me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
This is very difficult for me. I'm not used to speaking at events like this, and particularly for a person like Charu. But I think we go way back. Probably 1990. And at that time, Charu was selling cookies. He used to travel from Salt Lake to California. And I asked him, how much do you make? And I remember it was a couple of $1,000s. And I said, why do you spend that much time? And this is a winter time that he travels. So I said, we need to stop this. So for the people in California, the reason why the cookies stopped coming to California was because of me. I said, we just can't do this. And we started India Mela, our India festival at that time. And within the first one, we made more money than the cookie sales. So that's the kind of journey we went on. When we talked about the temple, and the numbers were staggering. We're talking about raising millions. And he and I sat and said, you know what? We'll make it, no matter what. And at the opening, we had invited Senator Orrin Hatch to come. And it's an interesting thing. I was on the phone with Orrin Hatch. He's trying to come for the opening. And he's at the Delta counter, arguing with the person at the gate. And she said, you cannot, the flight is booked. you cannot go. And Oriental says, I'm the senator here. She says, there's no seat for you. The next day, he showed up on time for the opening, just for the opening, and he left within 3 hours. That was the kind of power that Charu had. We worked together on a lot of projects. This Caru and Spanish folk, to do that in Utah is an amazing thing. And that's Charu Prabhu's power. Very good.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Lord. My memories with His Grace Charu Prabhu from Salt Lake City, almost 21 years back when we moved from Wisconsin, Salt Lake City. And somebody told us, there's a beautiful temple about an hour drive from Salt Lake City. So sometime in summer of 2006, we drove to the temple, and we did not have any idea what kind of temple. And that time, now there are a lot of houses surrounding temple, a lot of habitats and more shops, but there was nothing about that time. And here we drive, and used to be a single lane, now it's 2 lane, and then beautiful temple, and they were just wow factor. So wow, such a beautiful temple. And I could not even believe my eyes, I still remember. And then we entered the temple, and there you go, Charu was there. I did not know him. And he welcomed both of us, my elder son who was 5 years old at that time. And he made us comfortable, and we sat there and spent quite some time. And then he asked me, what do I do? And I told him I work at the University of Utah. And then in the conversation, he said, okay, we have a festival coming up, I think around Fest, sometime in September. And he came to know that I can cook. And then he engaged me in cooking. And that was my journey into Krishna consciousness. Thereafter, we were engaged in the Festival of Color, was ongoing, not that scale, but later on, sometime in 2008 or 9, he expressed his desire to open another temple in Salt Lake City. And his Rasvilas, at that time, Ramesh Goyal, said, I don't find any way to get into Salt Lake City, and how can we do it? I want to start some program in Salt Lake City. I said, Prabhu, you're welcome to come to our home and then start some program. So we started program first Friday of every month, home program, and family will come. And then he was looking for land in Salt Lake City. About 6 months into the program, and then we were talking, and then he said, I found the land. Of course, perhaps after discussing with Dr. Dinesh Patel. And, but the bank wouldn't give loan, actually, because they needed down payment. I will go in that story later on, but one time we were waiting for Charu, because he used to drive all the way from Spanish Fork to come to the home program, first Friday of every month, and enlighten us, stay there, and then he would leave around like 9:30, 10 o'clock, drive all the way back to Spanish Fork. One time we were just waiting. It's almost 8:30. We would start 7 o'clock, 8:30, 8:50. And I asked Neeraj, what happened? And the cell phone was not working. And eventually he came around 8:30. I said, Prabhu, what happened? And on his way near Foothill, his car broke. It was an old car. And then we had to tow the car and bring it to mechanic. And then I mentioned to Prabhu, why don't you have a second and new car or something? And his response was, no, I cannot spend money, it's Krishna's money. And that's how we have seen him always. Just Mataji and Prabhu, they would not spend anything, any single penny on their comfort. Everything was in Krishna service. And going back to Salt Lake City, then he said, well, we don't have down payment. So I said, Prabhu, I can try. And he mentioned that Dr. Dinesh Patel is willing to put, I think, double down. I don't know the story, whatever we gather. But anyway, it happened. And this land was bought. One day he came, and then his face was just glittering. He was excited. He said, Prabhu, what happened? Your face looks different on me. He said, we got the land, I got the loan. And he was so excited. And then this temple used to be a gift store before, a mobile gift store, a mobile homes gift store. And we would just come, Sundari Mataji and a couple of other friends, Kapil Prabhu, we would come in turns and open the gift store, sometime for a couple of hours, sometime for 3 hours. And we were struggling to maintain because we were just few families, 3-4 us. And then one day, Charu mentioned to me that, I'm thinking about opening another temple in Ogden. And I said, really? We can't even manage Salt Lake City Temple, it's just started. It was a center, it used to be the other room. And you are already thinking about another temple in Ogden. So that was the energy and spirit of Charu Prabhu. He was visionary. Many examples, he would connect people very nicely according to their strength. I haven't seen him angry at any point of time in my life. We all talk about tolerance and humility, and I think his legacy will go on. And I haven't seen a person so tolerant and so humble like His Grace Charu Prabhu. One other funny thing was one time I was talking with, it was about 10 years ago, with Charu Prabhu, and I very proudly told him, oh Prabhu, I went to Sugar House and I ran for a couple of rounds there. He said, I go there. I done there also, and every 100 meters or so I do 50 push-ups. And I did not pay attention. And then I came home, and then I was talking with my wife Amrita, and I said, did he really mean 100 meters? I think he meant total 50 push-ups. And the next day, I came back and I asked him, Prabhu, you do 50 push-ups total? He said, no, it's about 1,500 total. And that was his energy. And then we went to Texas 2.5 years ago with Jayanti. And he was such a great manager in many aspects. And I always joke, I always wonder, I think MIT and Harvard should invite him to give classes on management, how to manage things, how to come up with these big projects. There are many stories. I will stop here, and maybe Amrita wants to say a few things. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And as he said, we have known him for 21 years, and still I feel I don't know Charu. I mean, I have not met a person who has such wide, in a way, conflicting qualities. So charming, so personal, and so universal, Youthful energy and then that deep wisdom, Anyways, I'll share a couple of things like that gave me a glimpse into his heart. So one time he's telling me, we have two kinds of devotees in ISKCON. One is a pizza devotee, one is a pakora devotee. I'm not a pakora devotee. I think out of the box. I'm not traditional, so I don't fit into that criteria. I said, okay, Prabhu. And then one time he's like, you know what? When people walk into my property, like Krishna's property, I want them to have an open mouth, like, how come this thing is here? I just love their reaction when they do that. And then it's like, but I really want them to feel that they've come to Vrindavan, you know. And then, like recently, he was at our home with Mataji, and he was telling, you know, your Guru Maharajas have this big yatras, and thousands of people come and sit in the class. I can never do that. I have to be active, I have to be on the stage, or I have to be reading something. I can't sit like you guys on the floor and listen for hours. It was like just so full of life and so energetic, you know. Little glimpses I would get, and then I would realize, oh my gosh, you know, it's hard to know him, it's hard to appreciate him. You know, the biggest regret now I have is I could not appreciate him because he was just too big for me, too big than life. Like simple things, like as I said, when this property was brought, so me and my son, or sometimes both of us would come, and I would be worried, what will Charu eat? There is nothing in the kitchen. And Charu would live on a smoothie whole day, you know, and I was like, you know, my ideas never fit his personality. You know, he was just too big, too generous, too, what do you say, pioneer spirit, and at the same time, he used to give so much attention to every single person he met, made them feel special, made their contribution feel special. Like one devotee, I saw one visitor, you know, who lived here, then they moved, and then she gave him socks, a pair of socks as gift. And I happened to be there, and Charu was thanking her so profusely. I was like, did she give something else too? You know, like, Charu was like, this is my favorite thing to get. I love socks. I love wearing socks, you know. And one time we got him a kurta, and it was little, bold design, and we were like, Charu, will you wear it? He was like, I'll wear it to the most important functions, you know, so people know, you know, what I'm going to speak is important, you know. So he was like that kind of person. Always surprised us by his magnanimity, his outworldliness. At the same time, you know, he could just use anything in Krishna's service. And I can still not get it. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, everyone. We have heard a lot of history about Charu Prabhu. Let me share his vision and what he expects from all of us in next 30 seconds. My time starts now. Charu Prabhu is very, 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 very well known as Prabhupada's man. If you all help us, we have got 200 plus realizations. But what Charu told us, that please ask them and take a promise from all of them. That if they promise to keep coming every Saturday, I promise on behalf of the entire congregation that we will share one realization, one teaching, one passion of Charu every Saturday. Do I have my promise?
Haribo!
And if we have that promise, say Haribo!
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 And I say with all sincerity, if we can do just a bit of the passion, the humility, the lessons that Charu has taught us, one day we might have an honor to be known as Charu's man. So let's take this legacy from Prabhupada's man to Charu's man. You have all promised, so we want to see the same crowd every Saturday. If you remember that promise, one more time.
Haribo! Haribo!
Haribo!
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
For me, Charu Prabhu was an embodiment of love. And he gave me so much love. And I just got the realization that how Krishna's pure devotee gets the qualities of Krishna. Probably everybody sitting here feels the same, that Charu Prabhu loved everyone so deeply. He was my strength, and I wanted to share one experience, one story which happened with me for the sake of every one of you here. Because I think that's one sentence what he told me made so much difference even now in my life when I make a decision. That's one thing which I always place ahead of everything. I was doing a color fest in Michigan, and it was tough. It was 92 degrees, and that time another Maharaj had come, so I had a very little help. We had a 50 vendors tent, and all of you know how the festival goes and what happens. And it was me and my wife trying to put the tents, 50 tents. It was very tough. And Charu Prabhu, Krishna Prabhu, and everybody was staying at my house. And in the evening I was so tired. Next day was the festival. And I came home. And Charu Prabhu was smiling as he is always. I told him, Prabhuji, it was tough. I don't know tomorrow, but I was alone there. And he said one sentence. And he said, remember, when nobody is with you, Krishna is with you. It was so powerful at that time. And even today, any decision I do, now I don't look back how many people are there with me. I know Krishna is there with me. That's the power of a pure devotee. That's what he did. And I know that's what he did to so many people. There are so many things. He will, for no reason, I don't know, he was so elevated devotee, everything he had, and I was no one. And every time he will do something, he will send me a message. Even the song he will do, the rap he will do. I used to realize that, I had a special place in his heart. And he always called me for Color Fest in Utah. And I always said, next year. And I know Color Fest will happen in Utah, but it will not be same. And I miss that opportunity. The only solace I take is just a few months back, Mataji and Prabhuji came and stayed with us for the Color Fest. This time we had in Houston, and they had good time. So that's the only solace I can take out of it. I wanted to share. So always remember, when you're alone, Krishna is always with you. Hare Bol.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. For if you don't know me, I'm not very qualified to speak here at all. My name is Rajnath Das. I was one of the last initiated devotees here a few months ago. I feel very fortunate to have done that, but at the same time, I also feel a great amount of misfortune to not have the same level of connection that any of the other devotees have had. And first, I want to thank Guru Mataji for arranging this program a little later, so I would have the strength to come here at all and speak anything at all. And what great nectar from all of the proud brothers. I'm going to cherish all of that. for a very long time to come. So thank you all for coming here and giving us the nectar of your association meetings. I'll just share one instance that Guru Maharaj had with me. This was one of the last weeks, and my wife and I had gone to the Spanish folk temple that day. And Guru Maharaj started speaking in a very melancholy way, and he was sharing how Vai Mataji and himself, when they were at the Sydney temple, there's a lot of things that they had to learn for themselves. Great responsibility was thrust at them, and how they grew up and learned a lot of this stuff, and he was sharing a lot of the struggles they were going through. And I kind of brushed it off, and I said, but I don't have that problem, Guru Maharaj. You're just an hour away, so I will come anytime. And he just smiled at that, and I can remember that very clearly. And then he passed on again to the same story that, yeah, you got to grow up. It didn't occur to me much later. My wife and I were at a New Dharma temple when the news hit us, and those were the last things that I remember about him, and how it's time for us to grow up and continue his legacy, whatever Mataji and Dave built in here. So definitely it's our commitment that we will continue to do that, although I have no capabilities, but the strength here is very encouraging. So I bow to all of you, and I thousand obeisance to you. Please continue to come here and provide all the support we can so we can continue the good work that all of these great devotees have done before us. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, everyone. So, many of you have given a lot of your realization, and I don't have that much realization because my journey with Charu Prabhu was only 14-15 years. But some of the thing is, he's so particular, so sincere. Lecture has to be started at 7:15, he will start at 7:15. That is one of his quality. If he visit the temple, if he saw there is a big grass and lawn mower, nobody is mowing lawn, he himself pick the lawn mower, he'll do it by himself. That is his quality. When AI started, he started composing song using different software. I mean, he is person of all capability, what I realize. I being field of academia, I always try to learn all his lecturing capability. He starts his lecture with smooth pace, gives some example, some analogies, some stories. I mean, you will just amazed when you see his lecturing capability. That was his beauty. And when he end lecture, he just end back to home, back to Godhead. Style was such a great start from zero up. And at the end, he just generates such an intense devotion so that you will just magnetized with his capability. One incident I will tell and then I'll wrap up because much time is not too much. So, we barely started temple when temple basically 2011, 2012. So, on that time when temple was running in that building, so it was sometime it was Saturday. He used to come on the Saturdays. East was not Sunday, it's Saturday East. But he also kept one slot for Sunday, 12 to 1, so that he can attract more and more devotee and preach more. And sometimes people like 10 people or 12 people used to come and sit, and there is some prasadam as well on Sunday. Saturday was the big feast. I thought, let me go on Sunday, let's see what's going to happen. On that day, I was the only listener, he was the speaker, and he just preached me the same lecture, 45 minutes in that auditorium. So that is Charu Prabhu, that was his greatness. whether it's 20 people, 10 people, he will just do that. So it's hard to replace his presence. We all pray that Vai Mataji will stay with us forever, so that we will have your umbrella.
Hare Krishna. I would like to share a small incident that happened with me with Charu Prabhu a few years ago around pandemic time, and that left a deep impact in my heart. So it was a winter morning, probably December, early morning, 8 a.m. or something, and I was in the temple, and it was probably very, very cold. It was probably snowing, and Charu Prabhu was around. So I just got a wild idea, like why don't I ask Prabhuji if I should prepare a hot drink or hot tea for something for him. So I asked Prabhuji, can I prepare some ginger tea for you? And he said, sure, why not, it's hot. And unfortunately, I was not a great cook back then. Not that today, let's say. I was a very beginner. And without my knowledge, I added water. I started boiling water, added ginger, and I added sugar into it and some black pepper. And I boiled it a little extra. And I did not know that boiling sugar extra makes it bitter. Okay? And I boiled it, and then it became a little blackish. And I thought it's the standard way. That's how tea looks like. And I served tea to Prabhuji. And I was seeing him drinking it. And in the middle way, he asked me, "Did you add molasses into it?" I said, "No, Prabhuji, I added sugar." Okay. And then he finished his tea and he said, "Thank you," and he left. And now it was my turn to drink. And when I took the first sip, it was so bitter, and I couldn't imagine how could he drink the whole cup. And even for such a small, simple boy like me, he drank the whole tea and he appreciated me, he thanked me, and he left. And that was the biggest leadership lesson for me. Like even the smallest person had to appreciate a lot so they can be motivated to work hard. So that was the lessons. That was one of the many lessons that I got to see with my eyes, and even feel with my eyes with him, and that left a deep impact on me. So I'm very grateful to Charu that I got to see a live person, a live leadership, how a leader looks like. I never saw Charu asking help for anything. He was doing all simple menial service himself, picking up trash, setting up chairs, or setting up projectors, everything all himself. And by seeing him, we got inspired. Oh, let me help him. So leadership is examples that the lessons that we just got by seeing him. So I pray to Prabhuji, Shri Radha Govinda that let me they empower us so that we can continue his legacy, his leadership, his humility, and his great saintly nature all through our life. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Before we wrap up and invite our Grace, Vaibhavi Mataji, I'd like to say a few things about Charu Prabhu. He's a living legend. He's still here, and he's watching and laughing and rapping from somewhere. You know, he's been called for special duty from Srila Prabhupada. I met Charu Prabhu in year 2000. So 26 years I have been in and out. And whenever I tried to not come to the temple, he said, "I was worried about you. I was going to call you and see what happened to you." You know, I was like a visitor, just like, I'm like, okay, these are temple people, and I just visit, I do my thing, I don't want to get involved. And Charu Prabhu noticed that. And he's like, I noticed that you listen to the lecture very carefully. I have notes like this thick from year 2000 when I used to go to Spanish Fork, and one time I went to Spanish Fork, and it was just happened to be like that, and it was the inauguration of the temple. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. I was like, he's like, how did you not know that? I said, I just came because I thought I wanted to come and see you. And then in 2011, the day I came here to the property, my GPS stopped working. I was going for an art of living class or something, and I ended up here. And Charu Prabhu was like, "You're here? And this is the inauguration day again today." I was like, wow, Charu Prabhu, how's this happening? And there was only about 10, 20 people, and he was so humble. He's like, we're opening this temple for you and your community, come help out. And I was like, can I help? Like, he's like, duh, yes, that's what I've been telling you. So he was in the lecture one time, he said, you're like the bamboo shoot. You know, I keep pouring water, nothing happens to you. And then after 10 years, you suddenly shoot up. So that's what he treated me like that. I was his daughter. You know, I always looked at him. And when I could not go to India for my dad's surgery and everything, he would sit in this old temple, play harmonium for me, and we would read Bhagavad Gita, you know, page to page. That was one-on-one. He was just preaching me every day. And then I came to the temple, I said, okay, I'll bring my laptop, I'll work from the gift store here, whatever you need. So he said, okay, just work. And I'm like, what do I do in the temple? He's like, whoever comes, just welcome them. I said, I don't know anything. He's like, you just read the Bhagavad Gita, that's what the whole thing is. I'm like, wow. So I started helping people. I just started, and then I said, Prabhuji, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to go put posters because we are going to celebrate Janmashtami in spring, and it was summer of June. He would go all alone, put poster in every yoga studio, every coffee shop, every Smith's, every notice board in the world. We had a poster there. Why? Because Charu took the time to do it. He took me all the way to Ogden, and he said, let's go buy a temple there. I said, Prabhuji, there's nobody coming here. What do we do? You know, I mean, how are we managing it? He's like, no, we have this church, let's go write an offer on it. I was like, oh wow, okay, let's do it. You know, he was just so intelligent and expanding love to people. He was a people person. He didn't care about how things didn't get done or what's not happening. You know, he didn't get it. He said, we are as good as our people. He gave open heart. And then, you know, when I used to come to the temple in the afternoon, I would stay 4 or 5 hours every day. And he said, here are the keys, you know the philosophy, manage it. I'm like, excuse me, Charu, I don't know anything. But he would text me everything. I was like his back office. My text messages are just like, Haribol SP, did this money come in our account? Did this happen? Does this get paid? Haribol, is this person coming up by this flight? Can you pick him up? You know, that was my relationship with Charu. I didn't have to glorify him or he didn't have to glorify me. It was all about business. Let's do this. We have to get this done. I was like, wow, and that was my thing. And I know I'm going to miss him for the rest of my life because there's nobody like him. Nobody. And I'm so grateful that Baby Mataji has been guiding us. The work hasn't stopped. It's only started now. You know, every rap song, past 2 years, he spent his whole energy onto his radio station. So if you want to tap it, that's his sound. He's speaking to us through AI. He went in and did social media training, AI training, so that he could reach out to the masses. He was not a limited, you know, I was like a frog in the well, and he was from the ocean. He brought the ocean to us in our heart. And now is our start. We have to start living now. The project starts now. The people starts now. We show up here day after day just to serve him. And that's how we serve Radha Govinda. If we don't know Charu Prabhu, we don't know Prabhupada. If we don't know Prabhupada, we don't know the deities. That's how he gave me everything. If a tough cookie like me could melt with his love, you guys are ahead of your time. You know, I never thought I would be a devotee. Never. When he gave me books, I asked him, Prabhuji, every book says I have to have a spiritual master. I don't know what that is. You know, I don't know how to find a spiritual master. He said, and I said, Prabhuji, can you be my guru? Because that's all I know is you. And he said, he laughed and said, I will always be your Shiksha Guru. And go find your own Diksha Guru. And when I got initiated in Spanish Fort, he sat next door and he was so happy. He said, this is the finest time of my life. And that's what he did for everyone, everyone. In January, he called me from Hawaii. 3 times he told me, Sundari Priya, in 6 months I will not be here. He was dead serious. I said, Prabhuji, why are you talking like this? We have so much to do. And he's like, what are you guys going to do if I'm not here in 6 months? 3 times he told me. And he said, initiate. Otherwise, I'll go to Spanish Fork and initiate. I said, I begged people, please take it seriously. You know, Charu Prabhu is a legend. If you learn something as a disciple from him, your life will be changed. You know, people are like, oh no, I will take it in 6 months, in 1 year or something. But Charu Prabhu just was so humble as a guru here when he sat to initiate. He didn't want to give a pranam mantra. He's like, do I have to do that? You know, so my husband wrote down the pranam mantra and said, Prabhuji, this is it. He's like, okay, just give it to my disciples. You know, he was so humble. He didn't want glories. He didn't want nothing. You know, throughout the Caru festival, he would stay hungry. We would sneak in some sandwich to him and say, please, Prabhuji, please eat. Only thing he would have is some little juice, that's it. You know, whole day. One time in Ogden, we were setting up the tents for the Caru festival, and the stage were all set up. And the last thing I know is I get up first thing in the morning and I reach there and I see Charu Prabhu is packing up. I said, Prabhuji, where did you stay in the night? He said, under the stage. I said, Prabhuji, why did you stay under the stage? You know, he's like, we can just have a room here, a hotel, there are devotees here, they can house you. They can, no. Who's going to take care of Krishna's property? That stage is Krishna's property. That's how he treated it. You know, he had no ego, nothing, none whatsoever. You know, he would eat prasadam out there, and I would see him, he would collect everybody's plate and throw in the garbage. People didn't care, you know, but he would do that. That was his glory. We can't even fathom what he had lived through. But maybe I want each one of us to write down our memories and our pictures or whatever. We are working on an online memorial, so everybody can just read for generations. There can be books published for that. You know, so I'm going to stop now because I can go on and on. I invite Her Grace Vaibhavi Mataji to please come and enlighten us, pray for us, and bless us. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. You've been talking a lot about how he would do everything in all circumstances. And that's a fact because he didn't make distinctions in activity, people, environment, in any circumstance. He just saw Krishna in everything. And that's what the secret was. I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, they were good buddies. Everyone's telling a little story. Let me think of what. It was one time, way back, they've talked about the radio station, and at one point, we had finished the mortgage. There was 5 acres with the radio station, and there was an additional 10 acres next door that was not touched for all those years. And he thought, let's see if we can get some of that. So it was very tricky, very much Krishna's arrangement. Somehow or other, it came to the point that we were going to be able to buy those 10 acres, but we didn't have any money. So anyway, we got something together, and it was a Tuesday. On the Thursday, they were going to put it on the open market, and there'd be people buying like mad. And we needed another $8,000. A lot of money in those days, but just 8. And he was praying. Krishna was always there with everything he did. And he was leaning on a fence thinking what he would do. A man walks in and says, I need a baby llama. My daughter needs a llama for her birthday. And Charu said, well, that one's 1,000, and that one's 2,000, and that one's 8,000. So he said, I have no idea where that came from, but just Krishna told me to say that. And his whole career was like that. His whole life was like that. Some sort of internal dictation. and it all, someone mentioned he had the Midas touch. Krishna's the controller and the owner, everything, so he told him what to do all the time. It's really remarkable. And that impressed not just the general populace, but very special people. Today I got a letter from Governor Herbert. He knew all the governors very well. Governor Herbert, very, very much. He was the governor for about 12 years. And he knew us way back when he was county commissioner before he became governor. And he wrote a very beautiful long letter and glorifying Charu and offering support for me, which I want to need. I got a letter from BYU, the head of BYU. I got a letter from the head of the Mormon church, from the president. So every individual loved him. I got so many letters from people who said he changed their lives. He touched so many thousands of people's lives, but he also changed the lives of many people. So that's the most impressive thing about my understanding of him, is that dictation from within. So it comes from faith. So I'm hoping that we'll all stay in faith. If we stay in faith, we can't say we've lost him. He's gone. Krishna took him in his time. He'll never go out slowly. He'll never go out gradually. He'll do everything with power and influence. And he chose to live like that under Krishna's guidance. So if we have faith enough, like he always did, then we can continue his legacy, expand it, and we just depend on all working together. Yes, he individually did lots of things. He was able to do it all. We can't maybe do that, but as a group and as a huge community, he influenced the world. I got letters from all the countries, all over the world. It's amazing. Countries he's not even visited, where they were doing memorials for him and giving classes. He influenced the whole of America, and therefore I gratefully thank those devotees who come kindly. They did also at the funeral, came to show the appreciation of him. He especially had a great effect on Utah. And Krishna is embedded now in Utah culture. So I'm hoping that it will stay and expand. Everybody in Utah knows Krishna, everyone loves Krishna because of Charu. And so please have the faith to expand it and never give up. Hare Krishna.
I had unique privilege to work with Charu Bhai. I should lovingly call him Charu Bhai. When I first met him, he said, it is not possible. It is always possible to do something that he'd like to do. And I believed him. And now you can see the creation that he left behind us. He not left us, he's already with us. Let's hope and pray that someone will come forward to work as hard, as dedicated as he did. Hare.
Is there anyone else who would like to have some good memory? If not, please. Rakesh Prabhu, please come next. Just two minutes so that we can wrap up and we will do Aarti and there will be prasadam after that.
So I had a portion to serve Charu Prabhu. He invited me to serve in this temple. One day he came and asked, what's your idea of what we did in Brahmacharya, just follow sadhana, preach. He didn't continue with communication because he said it was something naive. So that we not work in this big project. So later I told another devotee that I will go from door to door distribute books, and he said someone may shoot you to death. So it was so unpractical. Then after he didn't continue communication, I said I need to just go reserve him. Whatever he needs, manage his temple and preach whatever people come. So that was another example. After I married, we started beekeeping. It was nice. So one day our neighbor got someone was drunk, attacked our bees, killed. So we called Charu Prabhu. What happened? So he said maybe you need to feed his pets with prasadam. I said it was so simple. If I was feeding them prasadam with something good, pets probably I would not have a problem. So another thing that recently I repented that April 4th we were planning to come and join the Harinam and to his lecture. So my wife got sick, so we couldn't come. Then after April 5th he gave another lecture that we listened to from Facebook. And April 6th to 20 we heard the sad news, he got accident. And same time, few miles away, I was driving my wife to his doctor's appointment. And I was thinking that I wish I was his driver, so maybe he was safe. So when person is alive, then we don't serve much. I don't serve much. When after years you are repenting, unfortunately. So there is not much to say, and everybody knows what he did. He is very practical, and he was another thing that he came to this Utah State, where is the LDS people, wonderful people, and he was able to make this friendship and trust. And I heard that they were trusting him, donating him to this temple, and a lot of people, he made friends, a lot of people, which is maybe not directly Hare Krishna. And that's a big success he did. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Kapil Bhaiya asked me if I would like to talk, and I said no. But then I realized that since Charu Prabhu has made such a huge impact in my family's life, I think I owe it that I should share the realization. Everybody has already shared so many realizations. One thing that will stay with me and is that if this temple was not here and if Charu Prabhu was not here, wherever we are in our spiritual journey, my family, we will not be able to even move a single step. We were just stuck with Maya and we were enjoying life here, just thinking that yeah, that's where we are here for, just earn money, spend on material things. And the Charu Prabhu, like he had so many qualities, but for me, what struck me and will stay there forever is like I never saw him in stress. No matter what kind of festival he is managing, he will always have time for you, even though you will be assigned like you think you have a small thing to take care, and then you'll be stressed like, oh, how I'm going to do it, but he will just stop and then he will give you enough time, even though he has 1,000 things to take care, but he will never look anywhere else. He will just like make you realize that he has time of the whole world for you. And even if you do a very small service, he will make you feel special, that oh, as if you have moved mountain. That's how he was. And I never shared that with anyone. I just shared that with my wife last week. There was a time when I was hoping, I wish Charu was giving Diksha. I wanted to get Diksha from him. That just stayed with me, but at that time he was not giving Diksha. So I know like Guru, God comes in the form of Guru, so he has not left us. He's watching us and he's just smiling, and I hope, for me, I can say I couldn't do justice to the mercy that he gave me. I couldn't do any service that we should have. But hopefully, till we have the time here, we'll try to do justice to that. And on behalf of my family, I just want to thank Charu for giving us the direction, and I want to pray at his lotus feet that just keep holding our hands as he was holding till he was here. I know he's there watching us, and without his blessing, we won't be able to move forward at all. So we just pray for his blessing.
Hare Krishna. I remember Charu Prabhu, we met in 2001, first time when we drove to Spanish Rock Temple. That time the new temple building was in construction, and the first holiday that we remember, me and my wife, was behind the pond in the back of the house currently next to the temple, and that's where the deity was there. Since then, I remember Charu Prabhu's smile, and it was the same smile that I remember when we saw him at the last Holy Festival at the Spanish Form on Sunday. That was the last time we saw him. So that was the memory that he gave all of us, his infectious smile all the time, in any circumstance. Other thing that all connected with me or with everybody actually is that he made everybody feel special. He was able to communicate to everybody regardless of their background, no matter where they are from. The one specific memory that I have for Charu Prabhu which I want to share here with you is a few years ago in India Mele Festival, which is in September. The weather was really bad. It was thunderstorms that time. The tents, we had tents there for the temple tents, they all flew away. A lot of people had to sit under the stairs. Charu Prabhu, at 5 o'clock, his event started. There was nobody on the ground except one person with umbrella, and he was there. Started his Hare Krishna Mahamantra, followed by his event. And that was one thing that stuck with us, me and my wife, is that no matter what the circumstances, he would always be there, he would always show up. And that's the one lesson that is stuck with me. Thank you for that.
Hare Krishna. Mancha kalpatarvasya kripa sindhya patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. So I have to say something about Charu Prabhu. He's a wonderful devotee and very great devotee. He has all the Vaishnava quality. Actually, what Vaishnava quality is like, he's a very hard worker person and always smiling face and engaged devotees with always to service with his smile face. So we have to actually learn from him, and we should always think that he's here with us. Sometimes I feel like maybe we are all here, but maybe he's in Spanish spot. Anytime he may come here to sometime, like how he used to come every often 1 month. So that's all that I want to say. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, there's a lot of people here. I'm from nowhere, Utah. I've lived all over Utah, small town Utah. I would have never known anything about Lord Krishna's name or Krishna consciousness if it weren't for him. He is responsible for a copy of the Bhagavad Gita that I found in my middle school library in small town nowhere, Utah. The only reason I'm here, the only reason anyone is here is specifically because of him. I'm blessed to live on the same place on the planet at the same time as him. Some people exude love like the sun exudes light, and that was very much who Charu was. I remember all the times we spoke, he was overjoyed and overexcited over the smallest things. It blew my mind how easy it was for his mind to be blown. Yeah, I remember telling him the smallest things. I told him what my name was, Rylan Brahmin, and he acted like I just turned water into wine. Like it blew his mind. Brahmin? Your last name's Brahmin? Yes, it is Brahmin. Yeah, he was there. I don't think I've ever met another human being anything like him, and I'm hoping that one day I will. Thank you.
Charu Prabhu has always been an amazing person. His height was for everybody. That's why Bhagavan Prabhu and Charu were here in Utah with two amazing temples. I had the chance to see the behind the scenes with Charu Prabhu. It is true, after one round, it's 100 push-ups. And it was hard in the beginning, walking a sugar house park. But it was an amazing experience seeing Charu between all the families, the community, seeing from 10 people at the temple to hundreds of people every Saturday here. One funny story about Charu, that was the last time that we had the Lama Festival. They had the Lama Parade, the parade BYU. By that time, that section of 515, it was under construction, and there was a lot of those big orange cones. I was driving behind with some llamas, and Charu Prabhu was in front of me holding the great trailer with a couple of llamas. We're taking the turn to the right, and I see Charu hitting every single cone. One flying. When we arrived over there, he said, "Have you seen those cones flying behind you?" That was Charu Prabhu, always with a beautiful smile. And always in the bad moments, he always brought light into that. One of those times where they broke into the temple and they took the small donation box. And Charu was okay with that, because, that's gonna be publicity for the temple. And of course, it was because it was on the news, so everybody learned that the Krishna temple was here in Salt Lake City. I would like to say thank you so much to him and to Bhagavan Prabhu, because thanks to them, we are who we are now. We're gathering together, we are committing our life to work together and keep going with his mission, the mission that he learned from Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Padaya Shrimate Charu Das Adhikari. This was a pranam mantra which we compiled after discussing with Charu Prabhuji. Some few minutes ago, my wife Sundari Priya mentioned about the day of initiation. Nityanand Tradashidi. And me and my wife went there. We had told Charu Prabhu, Prabhuji, do you have a pranam mantra? Prabhuji said, no. I don't want my disciples to chant my pranam mantra. And then I said, Prabhuji, come on. There are disciples who will be doing Aarti, Puja, Seva. They need a pranam mantra. How can they worship Krishna, Radha Govinda, without the pranam mantra? No, I don't want. And somehow I had to force him out of love. Prabhuji, please. Somehow he got convinced in a second. Okay, so how do you compile pranam mantra? I said, he told me, so what's the pranam mantra for your guru? I said, Prabhuji, my guru is a sannyasi. You are a grihastha. So let me discuss with the disciple whose guru is a grihastha. And then we discussed, and then Pranam Mantra was compiled. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Charu Das Adhikari Iti Nam. And then he told me, you are informing me very late about this. You should have told me about this. I said, Prabhuji, you should have started initiating disciples much before. We are too late. Anyways, and somehow I got the service of assisting him in initiation. And I come from India. It's very evident that I'm from India. And when I came to this place, it was a culture shock for me. Because in India, we devotees, we worship Srila Prabhupada disciples as gods. If not gods, demigods. And to see someone like senior Prabhupada disciple like His Grace Charu Prabhu lifting the leftover plates of junior devotees who are disciples of his god brother was shocking for me. And I told my wife, Sundari Priya, what is this? She said, this is Charu Prabhu. This is his humility. How many of us can serve our juniors? Can we serve our juniors? It is very difficult. Because we have very big ego. We have mountains and mountains of ego. We can't serve our juniors. But His Grace Charu, I saw Charu Prabhu serving his juniors. And not just that, I saw people calling him Charu, Charu. Sometimes the disciples, Charu. I said, what is this? You should call him Charu Maharaj or Charu Prabhu. And I told Charu Prabhuji, this is culture shock. Yes, I told him. I used to speak very, straightforward with him. I had no inhibitions. And I told Charu Prabhuji, sorry Prabhuji, but please don't feel offended. But I find this a culture shock. We don't call senior Prabhupada disciples, not just senior Prabhupada disciples, even devotees, ordinary devotees who have come for the first time, the new bhakti or bhakta in the temple as Prabhuji, Mataji. He said, I don't want any respect. This was true. And I saw him as personification of humility. Whatever I am saying is not just to glorify him, but this is my honest realization. And this is what I learned from Charu Prabhu. Now that he has left all of us physically, I realize, now I don't see such humble devotee on this planet Earth. Few years ago, my mother had come to stay with us. When she came to the temple, I introduced my mother to Charu Prabhu, and I saw tears swelled in his eyes. When Charu Prabhu saw my mother, he just folded his hands, and I saw tears in his eyes. And he said, and he told me, Charu Prabhu, Govindaraj, I feel that your mother is my mother from previous birth, previous life. And I want to serve her. How can I serve her? I said, Prabhu, just give your blessings to her. See, that was his mood. And every time he met my mother, he used to, manifest that mood. So, dear devotees, for me, Charu Prabhu was personification of humility, pridelessness, so much so that he used to sit in front of the devotees, junior devotees giving classes. The junior devotee used to sit on this Vyasasana, just 10 years old devotee. He used to sit on the Vyasasana, and Prabhuji used to sit over there where Natalia is sitting. That was his humility. Not many of us can do that. And we are going to miss him. And I'm grateful to Charu Prabhu that he gave us service of Radha Govindji and Radha Shyam Sundar. Thank you very much, Mataji.
we have 2 more devotees sharing their realization. The next bit of the program is after this one. We all rise up, we'll do the Aarti, and we'll all take prasad and celebrate. But as I mentioned, two. So 2 more realizations, and then we'll do Aarti, take prasadam. For prasadam, we have also arranged the other auditorium. So you can take the prasad from here and then move to the other one.
Hare Krishna. So just quickly, I'd like to share 2 points about my relations with Charu. His Grace Govindas Prabhu very eloquently shared humility of Charu. So I'd like to second that opinion. Everybody here can agree that everybody was at some point touched by Charu Prabhu's humility. One of the regrets in my life, I would say certainly that I missed out associating closely with Charu Prabhuji. I should have taken that opportunity when he was around. Everybody here would probably agree that when a person is around, you do not put much thought or about like him not being around. So I think I find myself in that place. I'd like to end with a short poem of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So, and I quote, "He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die, when thou art living still in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy name around." This poem perfectly fits Charu Prabhuji. And I'm going to miss Charu Prabhuji. I'm sure a lot of people here will miss him as well. His Grace Charu Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna everyone. I'll be blazing quick. Last but not the least. I know we are all here to celebrate Charu Prabhu's spiritual life. I have a quick realization. September 2013, 13 years back, we moved to Utah from India. We came to the temple, thanks to the Lord giving us the opportunity. When I saw Charu Prabhu for the first time, white American on a stage, preaching Bhagavad Gita, he was like spreading the seeds of spirituality. And we got lucky that we accumulated some of that, and we really cherish those. So, and he was famous for his rap song, as we all know. If we all think Charu Prabhu is here, Charu Prabhu is there, Charu Prabhu is in Kolkata, as you can see in the photo. Thank you so much.
Everybody heard the announcement. First we'll have Aarti, and then prasadam is already ready. So you can take your plates, go to the auditorium, there's seats there, and some of us can be there. Also, I'd like to thank today's sponsors. Thank you to Shivani and Saurabh for sponsoring today's feast, and today Rachana Prabhu and his family. Thank you, sir. Hare Bol, Hare Bol.
Why should I do with the video? Can I keep it?
No, I think you can end it.
Huh?
I think you can end it.
Okay.